Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is our last section of the Nutrition 101 course. And I'm just so happy that you have joined us. And I hope that this last little bit of information is helpful for you. So, today we're going to be discussing vitamins and supplements. I don't know about you, but like it's often confusing about which ones are healthy for you, which one are, most natural versus superficial, and what does it look like? So, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks of what to look out for and why it's helpful. And this is also just a reminder to get your personal secretary out if you have any questions, to write them down and keep track of them. So, do vitamins replace food? I think sometimes in our culture we think that, I am so busy and I can't always get the nutrients that I need. So I'm just going to take a bunch of supplements and therefore I'll be good to go. And although that is helpful, supplements do not replace whole natural food. I mean, that is the best way that you can absorb all the nutrients that you need and have a healthier diet. But it is also very common that if you're taking supplements, that like things like if you are pregnant or you have an illness or you have food allergies, you're over the age of 50, depending on where you live or the seasons, maybe you have certain diet limitations or you just have a busy lifestyle. This is where supplements can help balance things out, but by no means does it replace natural whole food. So, when we're talking about supplements, there are some that are more processed and some that are the least processed. So, we're going to talk about what these are. But as a reminder, too, like it just never replaces the whole food. So, some of the most processed vitamins are the ones that are synthetic. These are the ones that you can find more in bulk and they tend to be cheaper, but they're also less potent. They have additives, and sometimes they can create more problems or more imbalances. So, although these maybe are a little bit cheaper to access, they do tend to not always meet your dietary needs that you're taking them for. The next level of most processed. So the synthetic is the most processed, then it's natural supplements. So sometimes this can be a little deceiving because when you hear the word natural, you think, okay, it must be a better option for me. So these supplements tend to be more plant and animal based products, but only 10% of it has to be natural plant derived ingredients. So here you are thinking that, oh, this whole thing's got to be good for me and it's got to be natural, but really only 10% of it has to be natural. So just keeping that in mind and that it can still have some synthetic components to it. The next one is whole food supplements. So, when you're taking a supplement, this is probably one of the best variations of it outside of eating 100% real food. So, these are made from concentrated whole foods. They tend to be very potent and synergistic, which means they complement and work together so that you get the best absorption. But like I said before, like the best way that you can go about it is try to get as much of your nutrients and vitamins and minerals from your diet because that's the best way you're going to get absorption and the most nutrition that you're going to get. So then there's this other component to it that I feel like we often hear, but you may not know that there's limitations to the vitamins that you have. So things like water soluble and fat soluble. So all B and C vitamins are considered water soluble. So what that means is that it's transported in your body through water, so therefore, when you go to the bathroom, is excreted through your urine. So that way, if you end up having too much of it, you do get to get rid of the rest of it. So you don't tend to have an overabundance in your system. Whereas vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. So these means obviously if it's the other is water and it's traveled through water, the fat soluble is traveled through fat, which means it's stored in your fat. So when it's stored in your fat, you can have, you can end up having too much of it if you tend to overindulge. So this is where you want to be a little bit more cautious about how much you're ingesting and what is the recommended daily value. So when you're choosing a supplement, you might want to ask these two questions. These are the most important ones when you're trying to figure out which is right for you. Is there science I can't speak today. Oh, it's a common theme here. All right. So, is there science providing that the nutrient in the supplements are absorbed in the body? So, is there third party research, large scale studies, or peer reviewed articles understanding of whether or not these are good quality supplements and providing that information? The next question is there science providing that the supplements and nutrients do something good for the body once they get into your system? So, are they high quality, potent, and synergistic, which means they work and complement each other? Because sometimes some supplements can cancel each other out. So, these are important things to consider. So, let's give it a try. It's your turn. So maybe you're already taking some supplements, and I want you to just take a moment to maybe grab one of your bottles that you're taking and think over some of this information that we're discussing here. Is the vitamin considered water soluble? And are you getting the recommended daily amount in this vitamin? So let's see. Here are some questions to ask yourself about some of the supplements you might already be taking. So, one, am I getting enough of this vitamin in my daily diet? So, are you getting this from the foods that you're eating? And honestly, if you're changing your diet to a lot of what you learned from this course, you should be getting a lot of the vitamins that you need. Number two, what is the quality of this supplement? Is it considered fat or water soluble? And are the nutrients in this supplement absorbable? So, sometimes you need other things within the vitamin to help you absorb. Kind of like when you think of turmeric and pepper. You need something to help it be absorbed in your system. So, in talking about nutrition, we are not just talking about the effects that it has on our body, which don't get me wrong, it has a big component and role. But we're also talking about our mental health and the effects that our diet and nutrition has on that. So, as you may or may not know, 90% of our neurotransmitters and serotonin are located in the gut, not the brain. So, often we're thinking, oh, when I'm suffering from anxiety or depression or whatever it may be, ADD, that we're thinking that this is all coming from strictly the brain. But what we're not considering is that it's also coming from the gut. And this is what communicates and is going back and forth with the brain. So, really, our diet has a huge role on our mental health, as well as how our brain's communicating to the rest of our body and our organs and how things are functioning. So, it really is not a separate entity, even though we tend to try to separate it at times. So, when we eat a lot of junk food or foods that cause inflammation in the body, that is what causes the neurotransmitters to function improperly. And that's when we start having some health issues, or we might be suffering from anxiety, depression, ADD, different things that, can affect our mental health. So, things like allergies as well and IBS, really it can there's such a large scale of things that the our diet can really impact our overall well-being. So a nutrition deficit caused by eating a lot of fake and processed foods is what can affect more than just our waistline. It affects everything within our daily lives that we are doing, from our brain to our liver to our hearts. Everything is all affected and connected to one another. So now that we are at the end of our session, I want you to think about one thing that you plan to change this week. Of all the information you learned, what is one thing that you plan to change this week? And I also want you to have an opportunity to sit there and reflect about some of the questions that you wrote down in your personal secretary. Are any of them something that you would like to explore in more detail, get more clarification on, or do you just want to learn more about how this information applies to your life, or how can you better stay accountable with some of this information? So I am more than happy to meet with you and consult with you about some of the questions that you might have. And if it's something that I do not have the answer for, I do have access to a research database that I can help try to find some of that information as well. So I kind of view it more as a partnership, that we're in this together and I help walk alongside with you to help you kind of decide what are the best things that are going to help support you in your wellness and healing journey. And I can use some of the information that I've learned to help you along the way. So that is something that, by appointment, you can schedule it on my website, and we can kind of schedule and get some of those answers clarified for you, and maybe even start a plan for you to kind of implement some of these teachings. But when in doubt, even though all this information is general and should be able to be applied to many lifestyles, it is so important to still check with your doctor if you have any particular health concerns that you're trying to adjust. So, for those that might be undergoing cancer treatments or on certain medications, you may have certain dietary restrictions. So that does not mean that that you can't just apply these teachings in this course. It just means that you will need to consult with your doctor to see if there are any limitations. But what I love about all this information is, let's say you're already on a certain diet, and this may be recommended by your doctor. This might have been a choice that you've decided that was good for you. Whatever it may be, you can still apply this information and integrate it into something that you're already practicing. So that's what I think is great about all of this information. So, again, thank you so much for attending this course. I really hope that you found it informative and helpful. I know I did for myself. And please share this on social media and help spread the word about this helpful resource, and maybe even share a little bit about your experience with it if you found it helpful. I will be having some upcoming classes, as I also specialize in pre and postnatal care when it comes to nutrition. So, in the future, there will be some courses on that. And then also schedule a consult with me if you have any questions or you want to follow up on something or even just be held accountable. I would love to help motivate you and inspire you to apply some of these teachings and maybe even dive into it a little bit more. So, if you want to learn more, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, or even stay up to date with some of the upcoming courses that will be coming, please go to www.theartofhealing.org. And just know that I plan on having some live workshops in the future as well. So not all of them are going to be online self-paced like this. I will have some that are more interactive. And I do plan on even having a women's retreat where it is an online group where you can kind of connect with one another. And this is more for prenatal care, for new moms or existing moms, and trying to help support one another and maybe implement some of these teachings. So I do have a lot of exciting things planning to come in the future. So please stay tuned, and thank you again for joining us today.